Let's dive straight in.
Abraham Lincoln, April 14th, 1865, Washington, D.C. Just 5 days after the Civil War ended, President Abraham Lincoln wanted a quiet night. He went to Ford's Theater with his wife to watch a comedy play, Our American Cousin. The atmosphere was calm. No one expected what was coming. At 10:15 p.m., John Wilkes Booth, a famous actor and Confederate supporter, slipped into the presidential box. Security was weak, just one guard who had left his post to get a drink. Booth walked up behind Lincoln, aimed a .44 caliber pistol at the back of his head, and fired. The bullet went straight into Lincoln's brain. Mary Lincoln screamed. Booth jumped from the balcony to the stage, breaking his leg when he landed, but still escaped. The crowd thought it was part of the play until they saw blood. Lincoln was carried across the street to a boarding house. He never regained consciousness. Doctors tried to remove the bullet, but it was too deep. He was breathing slowly, heartbeat fading. At 7:22 a.m., April 15th, Lincoln died, the first U.S. president ever assassinated. America woke up to shock, panic, and rage. Booth was caught 12 days later and shot dead. The Civil War had ended, but the nation broke again. John F. Kennedy, November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. President John F. Kennedy was riding in an open-top limousine through Dealey Plaza. It was a bright Friday afternoon. Crowds lined the streets, cheering. Kennedy sat beside his wife, Jackie. Texas Governor John Connally sat in front of them. At 12:30 p.m., as the motorcade passed the Texas School Book Depository, gunshots cracked through the air. The first shot missed. The second hit Kennedy in the upper back and exited through his throat. Governor Connally was also hit. People started screaming. Then the fatal shot. It struck the right side of Kennedy's head. His skull literally opened. Jackie screamed and climbed onto the back of the car, trying to grab pieces of his head. Secret Service agents rushed in, but it was already too late. The car sped to Parkland Memorial Hospital. Doctors performed emergency procedures, but the damage was catastrophic. At 1 p.m., Kennedy was pronounced dead. Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine and Marxist sympathizer, was arrested 70 minutes later. 2 days after that, he was shot and killed on live TV by nightclub owner Jack Ruby. America watched their president die in real time. The nation went silent. Jackie refused to take off her blood-stained pink suit. She said, "I want them to see what they've done." Jovenel Moïse, July 7th, 2021, 1 a.m., Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Jovenel Moïse was asleep inside his private residence in the hills above the capital. Haiti was already falling apart. Gang violence, political chaos, and people demanding he step down. Security was supposed to be tight. It wasn't. Just after midnight, a convoy of SUVs rolled up to his house. Around 28 heavily armed men, many foreign mercenaries, stormed the property. They shouted DEA operation in English to confuse guards. Most guards didn't fight back. The attackers broke into Moïse's bedroom. He was shot at least 12 times, in the chest, arm, forehead, and hip. His left eye was blown out. His wife, First Lady Martine Moïse, was shot multiple times but survived by playing dead. The president died on the spot. No ambulance, no final words. Minutes later, the gunmen escaped. Haitian authorities caught some. Others fled to embassies. Fingers pointed everywhere. Drug traffickers, rich businessmen, even political rivals. To this day, no one fully knows who paid for it. The presidential palace stayed empty. Haiti didn't just lose a president, it collapsed deeper into chaos. Samuel Doe, September 9th, 1990. Monrovia, Liberia. Liberian President Samuel Doe arrived at the headquarters of ECOWAS peacekeepers, thinking he was safe. The country was in civil war. Rebel groups surrounded the capital. Doe trusted these troops, worst mistake of his life. That morning, soldiers loyal to rebel leader Prince Johnson stormed the building. They overpowered Doe's guards and captured him alive. He was dragged into a small room, tied to a chair. Cameras were rolling. Prince Johnson sat nearby, drinking a beer, casually watching. Doe was beaten and questioned. They demanded he reveal where government money and weapons were hidden. He refused. The rebels began cutting off his ear, piece by piece. They sliced his fingers. They stabbed him repeatedly. He begged for mercy. They mocked him. For over 12 hours, they tortured him while filming everything. Blood covered the floor. His uniform was shredded. By the afternoon, Samuel Doe's body couldn't take anymore. He finally died from blood loss and shock. His mutilated body was dumped publicly to show everyone the regime was over. That video spread across Liberia, proof the president was gone, and no one was in control anymore. Salvador Allende, September 11th, 1973, Santiago, Chile. It was dawn when tanks and fighter jets surrounded La Moneda presidential palace. The Chilean military, led by General Augusto Pinochet, launched a coup against President Salvador Allende. The phone lines were cut. The palace was isolated. By 9 a.m., soldiers were firing machine guns and launching rockets at the building. Windows shattered. Smoke filled the hallways. Allende refused to surrender. He wore a helmet, a gas mask, and carried an AK-47 rifle gifted to him by Fidel Castro. At 12 p.m., Chilean Air Force jets bombed the palace. Parts of the roof collapsed. Fires spread. His guards were dying or surrendering. Allende gathered his remaining staff in the Independence Hall. Calmly, he gave his final speech over the radio, promising he would not resign, not run, not betray the people who elected him. Minutes later, with troops closing in, Allende walked into a quiet room, sat on a couch, and placed the AK-47 under his chin. He pulled the trigger. Soldiers found him dead, blood soaking his chest and uniform. The palace fell. Pinochet took control the same day. Whether it was suicide or execution is still debated. But one thing was certain: democracy died with him inside that burning palace. Park Chung-hee, October 26, 1979, Seoul, South Korea. President Park Chung-hee had ruled South Korea for 18 years under a strict military regime. That night, he attended a private dinner at a safe house in the Blue House security compound. With him were his bodyguards, cabinet members, and the head of the Korean CIA, Kim Jae-gyu. Dinner started calm. Drinks were served. Park was in a bad mood, complaining about student protests and democracy movements. Tension filled the room. Around 7:40 p.m., Kim Jae-gyu stood up, walked behind Park, pulled out a pistol, and fired. The first shot hit one of Park's bodyguards. The second and third hit Park in the chest and head. The president collapsed at the table, bleeding out on the floor. Gunfire erupted in the hallway as security forces fought the KCIA agents helping Kim. Park was rushed to the hospital, but doctors confirmed he was dead shortly after arrival. Kim Jae-gyu claimed he killed Park to save democracy. Others said it was personal revenge. He was executed by hanging 8 months later. Park's death threw South Korea into chaos. Martial law, power struggles, and another military takeover led by General Chun Do-hwan. The man who ruled with iron control died in a quiet dining room, killed by the man paid to protect him. Anwar Sadat, October 6, 1981, Cairo, Egypt. President Anwar Sadat was attending a military parade celebrating Egypt's victory in the Yom Kippur War. The event was packed: soldiers, diplomats, news cameras, even foreign ambassadors. Sadat sat in the front row, wearing his military uniform and sunglasses, smiling. At 12:40 p.m., a military truck in the parade suddenly stopped in front of the president's viewing stand. Everyone thought it was part of the show, until the soldiers inside jumped out with rifles and grenades. One of them, Lieutenant Khalid Islambouli, shouted, "Death to the dictator!" Then they started firing. Bullets tore through the air. Sadat stood up, shocked, completely exposed. He was hit at least 11 times, neck, chest, and lower body. His security froze. Some guards hid. Others fired back too late. Chaos exploded. Smoke from grenades covered the stands. Officials crawled for cover. Vice President Hosni Mubarak narrowly survived. Sadat was rushed to a military hospital. No pulse, massive internal bleeding. At 1:15 p.m., he was declared dead. The assassins belonged to an extremist group furious that Sadat made peace with Israel in the 1979 Camp David Accords. The parade meant to celebrate war victory became his execution. Egypt went into lockdown, Mubarak took power, Sadat's blood was still on the parade stage. Laurent-Désiré. Kabila. January 16, 2001. Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo. President Laurent-Désiré. Kabila was in his marble-floored office inside the presidential palace. The country was deep in the Second Congo War. Rebels closing in, foreign troops everywhere, betrayal all around him. Kabila didn't trust many people, but he trusted his bodyguards. Big mistake. That afternoon, at around 2:30 p.m., one of his own bodyguards, a young fighter named Rachidi Kasareka, walked into the president's office. No warning, no shouting. He simply pulled out a pistol and shot Kabila point-blank in the back of the head. Kabila collapsed over his desk, blood pouring onto papers and maps. His advisors froze in shock. Guards rushed in and gunned down the assassin immediately. Kabila was still breathing, barely. He was lifted into a jeep and rushed to a nearby military hospital. Doctors tried emergency surgery, but the bullet had torn through his skull. He died later that evening. The government kept his death secret for 2 days, fearing total chaos. Rumors spread fast. Some said Rwanda planned it. Others said it was an inside coup. Kabila's son, Joseph Kabila, just 29 years old, was quickly put in power to stop the country from collapsing. The president, who fought his way to power, was taken out by the one person meant to protect him. Juvenal. Habyarimana. April 6, 1994. Kigali, Rwanda. It was evening when Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana boarded his private Dassault Falcon jet. He had just attended peace talks in Tanzania to end a civil war between his government and the Tutsi-led Rwandan Patriotic Front, RPF. With him was the president of Burundi, Cyprien Ntaryamira. At 8:20 p.m., the jet approached Kigali International Airport. The city was calm. People were getting ready for bed. Then, 2 missiles launched from the ground. One hit the wing. The second struck the fuselage. The jet exploded mid-air and crashed into the presidential compound garden. Everyone on board was killed instantly. Within 1 hour, checkpoints appeared across the capital. The president's body was still burning, and government radios announced his death. Hardline Hutu leaders blamed Tutsi rebels. Others believed extreme Hutu insiders ordered the hit to stop peace talks. What followed became one of the worst genocides in modern history. Hutu militias began hunting Tutsis and moderate Hutus. Roadblocks, machetes, house-to-house killings. In just 100 days, around 800,000 people were murdered. The plane crash didn't just kill a president, it opened the gates to hell. Habyarimana's plane fell from the sky and an entire country followed.